Martin Luther King was shot and was killed tonight in Memphis.
That was a look at a clip from the HBO documentary on Harry Belafonte called Sing Your Song. And Harry is with me still. You know, people think it's a long time ago that Martin Luther King was killed. To me, it feels like yesterday. It doesn't seem that long ago. And the whole civil rights movement and Lyndon Johnson, that whole period still resonates, I think, with people who were around at that time. Now you have Obama, President Obama in the White House, and a lot of people say it's a post-racial time because we now have an African-American president. Do you agree with that?
Well, as a student of history, I was once reminded of the fact that the end of slavery was the post-racial period then, too. I'm not quite sure what people mean by post-racial. Means you're no longer black, or you're no longer white, or it's after a period of great struggle, only to be greeted by new struggle and new goals and new things to be fixed. Certainly with slavery, one would have thought that that ended all dealings with issues of race. But no, we went into a century of segregation, one of the most cruel laws, and we had to defend ourselves and to fight to overcome those things. Then we went through the great upheaval of Adolf Hitler and the real vision of what white supremacy really meant in its crudest and most cruel sense. We had to deal with that. And then we came back and we had to then fight the new post-racial period, which was segregation and Dr. King and all the things that went on during the civil rights movement.
And now, let me interrupt you for a second, because now you have someone like Herman Cain.
Who?
Herman Cain?
Herman Cain.
You know who he is. And he doesn't believe that racism holds anyone back in any way now. I mean, you know, what do you think about that statement?
Well, you know, it's very hard to comment on somebody who is so denied intelligence. And certainly someone who is as denied a view of history such as he reveals. He knows very little. Because he happened to have had good fortune hit him, because he happened to have had a moment when he broke through the moment someone blinked, does not make him the authority on the plight of people of color. If black people are not having the worst time of it, then all you need to do is take a look at the prison system. We have the largest prison population in the world. The largest members of that population are black and people of color. If you take a look at the unemployment, the largest percentage of those unemployed, and you can go on down the line and find all of the things that will tell you that black people are not having exactly the best time of it.
Well, he also says that if you don't have a job and you're not rich, blame yourself. We'll be right back with more from Harry Belafonte in just a minute. Continue. In the 50s, Harry Belafonte was a matinee idol. In the 60s, a crusader during the civil rights movement. And in the 80s, he fought hunger in Africa and came up with the idea for We Are the World. Watch this. Okay, I'm back with Harry Belafonte. You know, you're saying how young everybody is. It feels like it just did this yesterday. I'm really starting to get crazy because the time is going by too fast now.
Just let me make one quick observation. I can move on with you.
Yeah.
I just want to make this observation about Herman Cain. The Republican Party, the Tea Party, all those forces to the extreme right have consistently tried to come up with representation for what they call black, for what they call the real Negroes, and try to push these images as the kinds of voices that America should be living to. So we got Condoleezza Rice, we got Colin Powell. I know they're heroes for some people, but for a lot of us, they're not. And Herman Cain is just the latest incarnation of what is totally false to the needs of our community and the needs of our nation. I think he's a bad apple, and people should look at his whole card. He's not what he says he is.
No, I don't think he has a prayer anyway in the election, actually.
I don't think prayers were created for him.
You know, as I'm watching that video of We Are the World, I'm thinking of Michael Jackson, because we're now covering a lot about Michael Jackson's life on this station and others because of the Conrad Murray trial. And a lot of stuff is coming out about him, about his drug addiction and his sad little life in a certain way, you know? Do you think that, that all of this information that's coming out will tarnish his legacy? Because he was a great, great performer, as we all know.
This is the culture in which we live. Everything is instant and everything is swiftly forgotten. All that applies to this moment about Michael. What will be remembered about Michael is We Are the World, Thriller, all the myriad of songs and performances he did that inspired so many, that he was the icon of the moment and in his time. And the legacy he left will be long remembered for his music and not for the encounters and the false moments he may have had in some deviant moment in the path of life. Michael was a sweet kid, and he had a very bad time growing up. The family, the pressures on them. I'm surprised that any of them turned out to be in any way articulate, but they really handled it well, and they gave us a great gift with what they've given us artistically.
Yes.
And pretty soon people will just linger on that. This other stuff...
It'll go away.
Has to.
Okay, let's talk about Obama for a second, the president. How do you think he's doing?
I believe that given what he is about, he's handling it as well as he can, but he's not handling it as well as many of us had hoped and expected. I think there's no question about his intelligence, his gift for, and the way in which he articulates his vision. What I do think is that there's a difference between being intellectually empowered, which is important, and being able to lead. And I think where he has been stunned by the opposition is that what they threw at him was highly unexpected. First of all, the hugely deficient economy, all that went wrong with that, and the banks, et cetera, et cetera. But
and what he was handed from the previous administration.
Yes, that's what I should have said, maybe. But what is really sad is that he has more strength than he really understands. And I think when he finds his moral compass, which is what I think went askew, I think there are a lot of things he doesn't need the Congress to do. There are a lot of things he can do just by the power of the office and the power of his presence. He could lead people to wherever he wants them to go.
Do you think he's going to be a one-term president like the right wing is predicting?
Well, considering what they're coming up as the opposition, I hope he's a 10-term president.
I mean, they got, so far they got nothing.
And I hope they stay that way.
Yeah. But George Clooney said something interesting. He said if he was a Republican running, they'd be selling him as the guy who stopped 400,000 jobs a month from leaving the country. They'd be selling him as the guy who saved the auto industry. If they had the beliefs, they'd be selling him as the guy who got rid of Don't Ask, Don't Tell, who got Osama bin Laden. Those are those are very good things in the past 3 years that he has accomplished, and yet it seems like the Democrats don't cut him any slack for it, and they don't push him that way. I agree with George Clooney.
Well, what you didn't ask me was what was the worst circumstances of all going on politically.
Okay.
And I think the worst circumstances of all that's going on politically is what the Democratic Party is not doing. I'll quickly tell you this story. Eleanor Roosevelt, who was a mentor and a friend, told me about a night when she gave a dinner party for a man by the name of Philip Randolph, a great black labor leader. Come to the White House, meet my husband. They talked. Roosevelt encouraged him to say all on his mind. So he discussed the state of the Union, the state of black affairs. And at the end of all of it, he charged Roosevelt with not using his power as clearly as he should have. Roosevelt said to him, I agree with everything you say, Mr. Randolph. There's nothing I can disagree with. But I intend to move forward. And in moving forward, I would ask you to do me one favor. And he said, what is that? And he said, I want you to go out and make me do everything you said I'm not doing. And I think that legacy is what Barack Obama did not inherit. When the Kennedys were in office, they had the Vietnam, the campuses of America, the black movement, women's movement, Native Americans. Everybody was in motion. That motion does not reflect itself, except just starting now down on Wall Street.
What do you think of those people down there?
I quell. I just think it is absolutely incredible how those young people are revealing their time in their way. And I think we're coming back on the right path. I think the pendulum is swinging. I think we should all be optimistic about what can happen, and just make sure that those bums on the right don't sneak through the gate.
Well, I fell for them also, you know, because I really think it brings me right back to
Yiddish.
Oh yeah. Oh. Well, listen, they don't call you Harry Belafonte for nothing.
How about that? How about that?
But, you know, I think that it reminds me of the days of the Vietnam War when we all got out there and marched for something, because the people have to have a way to express themselves and really tell the president and tell the Congress, look, we've had enough. We've had enough. And I think that they're doing it, and I just think it's great, and I hope it picks up more steam. And you know what I would say for the Tea Party? Muzzle tough to them also, because the Tea Party in another way is also expressing themselves from a grassroots position. And even though I don't happen to agree with what they're doing or saying, I still say good for them.
Well, you can say Mazel Tov, and I can say Muslim.
Muslim tough.
Muzzle. Get them quiet.
Who, the Tea Party?
Yes.
Well, you know, they have something to say, too. You know, originally they were against Wall Street, too. And then they switched it around and it all became about their taxes. So, you know, maybe they can see the light again. Maybe the people down on Wall Street and the Tea Parties will come together. No?
As a man committed to peace, I think coming together is the best of all human conduct. But sans that, without that.
Now you're speaking French. Oh, my God.
That's pure Yiddish. But I think that sans coming together, we have to be very, very vigilant.
Vigilant, yeah.
Vigilant on the issue of what's happening to America and where all this is going. Never has the extremes between rich and poor been as indelible as they are at this moment. And I think that people have just got to understand that the one thing missing from Barack Obama is the fact that there was nobody behind him to push him. As much noise as the Tea Party has made,
maybe there is now.
We have to make it now.
That's true.
And I think that's what's coming.
That's true. Do I have time to ask you to just tell me that story about jumping in the pool in Las Vegas back in the 50s? Was it the 50s? When blacks were not allowed to swim in the pool, much less be in the hotel where white people were. I don't think people can relate to it now. Just tell us the story really quickly, because I'm running out of time, but I love it.
Even though I was headlining at the club, I could not eat in the dining room, go in the swimming pool. Those were the rules. And I decided to defy that. So I got up the very next day, dressed in my swimsuit, walked downstairs to the swimming pool. And I think, not that they didn't know what to do, they didn't know how to do it. They didn't expect this to happen. And I got on the diving board, and I looked around and kind of smiled at the universe, took a nice dive into the water.
I hear it was a magnificent dive.
It's an incredible dive. I mean, I was working for the Olympic title. And then when I got out, when I went on and came up, I looked around the pool, and everybody had left. The pool emptied. All the white people got out of the pool. And I just kind of got up out of the water and smiled and did a little backstroke and breaststroke. Then a guy came up with a camera. And he said, Mr. Belafonte, do you mind if I take a picture with you and my wife? And his wife was in her bathing. She jumped in the water. Then her girlfriend jumped in the water. And before you knew it, I was in this pool with a sea of white people, all smiling. And I was quelling.
Well, I have to tell you, I am quelling from this interview. And I want to thank you for coming by. It's a great book. It's a great film. And thank you so much, Heshi.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Heshi. Harry Belafonte's HBO special, Sing Your Song, airs Monday night. We'll be right back.